Hi, my name is Anthony Lukindo and I would like to welcome you to the third installment of the how-to clips in regards to the Mesentel MWD jobs and tool tracking system. And in this particular third installment, we will cover the serial numbers module. And in this module, we will look at examples of how to add serial numbers to the part descriptions that we covered in the previous module, which was on parts and inventory. Welcome to the. In this example, we will add a serial number for a pulsar tool. That serial number must fall under the pulsar module, so select the pulsar module row. Once selected, right-click on the pulsar module description row, and on the pop-up window that results, select the menu item Add Serial Numbers. A window for adding serial numbers will show up. Notice that information is already filled in. For example, the is assembly option is already checked as yes. Service hours is already entered as 3,000 hours. And lifetime hours is already entered as 90,000 hours. Notice that this information was previously filled in when defining the pulsar module part. This means that serial numbers will always inherit or take on the parts assembly option, service and lifetime hours, avoiding the need to duplicate or re-enter this information when adding serial numbers. For every new serial number added, you can add a comment and a manufacturing date. So notice that you can add the new tool's serial number in two places. The first is your assigned serial number, the second is the vendor serial number. Now these can be one and the same. However, in some cases you may wish to use a simpler serial number but still have a record of the manufacturer's long serial number. So this is why you have those two places to add serial numbers. Click OK to add the serial number. The new serial number now appears under the inventory parts list under the pulsar module. Now notice that for the rest of the parts inventory list, serial numbers have been added to a variety of parts. Starting from the top, notice that we have serial numbers for batteries. Here we have serial numbers for battery of type Pro, type regular, motors, downhole motors, we have a bunch of serial numbers there. We have some added for the directional module. Under the pulsar group we have serial numbers for motor, pulsar module itself, as well as electronics, the switch, the gamma module, a dongle for the gamma software, and for the kit we have serial numbers for the EM kit, mud pulse kit, MWD kit. There's none for the resistivity kit. However, we have serial numbers for laptops, serial numbers for the RFD terminal, remote rig floor display, serial numbers for the SAI, surface area system, and here we have them for Pro and regular, and serial numbers for cables. At some point in your operations, you'll need to flag the status of your tools and parts. For example, you may have rented out a part, you may have sold a part, or a part can be under maintenance. The example that follows will show you how to qualify or to flag the status of your parts for your operations. Come on. Now for a moment, let us focus on the icons against the serial numbers. In this case, we are considering icons for the serial numbers under the gamma module. You'll notice that the default icon is a sticky note, which means that this is a serial number owned by the company and it is within inventory. The other icon is that of a clock, which means that this serial number is under rental terms. Yet another icon is one with a $sign, which means that this serial number is for a part that has been sold, so it is no longer with the company. The other icon is the icon of a screwdriver and a wrench, which means that this serial number is under servicing. To change the status of a serial number, just right-click and choose Edit Status. Go to the Other status. In this case, I'll choose the status for Serviced. If I go Update and I close, then the serial number will appear with a wrench and a screwdriver, meaning that this particular serial number is under service. So you can do this to any of the serial numbers in the list to update on their status. Notice that you can also set a serial number to be active or inactive. To do this, right-click on the serial number and select Edit Status, and on the Active Status tab, click on Inactive. You can choose a reason for inactivity. In this case, we'll choose the reason Lost in Whole, and click on Update, close, and the serial number is now grayed out. You can see it right here, and the reason for inactivity is that it is lost in whole. So this comes in handy when you need to decommission a tool because of lost status. But wait, one important thing to note is that when you deal with an assembly module, such as the pulsar module, you can see right here it's checked for assembly. When you change the status of a particular serial number, then the subcomponents of that assembly module will also get changed for their status. So, for example, if I double click on this pulsar module, which has components filled in, as indicated by the green highlight, you will find that it has subcomponents which is a motor of serial number M-92 and an electronics module of serial number EL43. Now, if I change the status of this module by right-clicking and choosing Edit Status and going to the Other Status tab and change the status to Sold, and I click Update and I close, you'll notice that the pulsar module status has been changed to Sold by the $sign, but also the subcomponent, which is the motor of serial number M-92, which is right here, its status has been changed to Sold as well. This also applies to the electronics module of serial number EL-43, whose status is right here, and it has also been changed to Sold. And the subcomponents of these serial numbers will also have their status changed to Sold. So with this feature, the application will remember and keep track of the subcomponents of an assembly module, and it will make sure that the status of each of those subcomponents changes with that of the assembly module. There will come a time when your initial description of parts will not be sufficient to describe all the parts that you have. So, for example, if you have a general part name and you put serial numbers under that, and later on you branch out to have more specific part names, you should be able to move a serial number from the general part name to a more specific part name. This application will allow you to do that, and here is an example of how that can be done. Another feature of the serial numbers module is that you can move serial numbers between parts. So let's say battery serial number BAT06 does not really belong to the battery part Pro, and that it needs to be moved to the battery part Regular. You can do this by right-clicking on battery serial number 06, choose the menu item Move, select Regular, right-click and choose Move to selected row. You'll be asked to confirm, after which battery serial number 06 will now be under the part Regular. So you can always move serial numbers between parts in this way. The example that follows is where we will consider a part, which is an assembly, and therefore it has an assembly template with placeholders for serial numbers that need to be filled in to build up the part. So the example will show how you can actually fill in those serial numbers. You will recall that in the inventory module covered in the last presentation, an MWD kit was defined as an assembly part. An assembly template was also defined for that kit. And to keep the example simple, we considered only two tools to be added to the kit, namely a battery and a pulsar module. Now that template can be examined by choosing the Edit Assembly Template menu item. So in the assembly template that shows up, we see that the kit needs a battery and a pulsar tool. On double-clicking the row for the MWD kit, a collection of kit serial numbers will be revealed. Right-clicking on a serial number for a kit and choosing the pop-up menu item Edit SN Assembly Template, this will reveal an assembly template similar to that of the MWD kit, but in this case with the placeholders for serial numbers for the two tools, namely the battery and the pulsar module. Now going back to the inventory list and selecting and double-clicking on a kit's serial number will again show placeholders for the serial numbers for the tools needed for this kit, namely the battery serial number and the pulsar module serial number. Now going back to the assembly template for the kit serial number, you can click on the empty serial number placeholder and assign a serial number to the battery. A pop-up window will show up showing a list of available serial numbers for the batteries. In this example, a battery of serial number BAT-01 was selected. A serial number for a pulsar tool was also selected. In this case, it was the first one, PLS-031. Notice that the serial number assignment utility has several functions that you can use. For example, you can release or clear a serial number that was already assigned to the serial number template. You can assign a serial number as a known. You can edit an existing serial number in place, or you can add a new serial number to the list of available serial numbers to choose from. When this is finished, we find that the template for serial numbers is now filled in for both tools, the battery and the pulsar module. The inventory list shows that now for kit 1, serial numbers for the battery and the pulsar module are filled in. To summarize, you'll find that when you build assembly part templates and then fill them with serial numbers, it works best to work from the bottom up. For example, the motor assembly part needs a switch subcomponent. Next, the pulse assembly part can then include the built-up motor along with an electronics module. Finally, the MWD kit assembly can now be completed by adding a battery part and the built-up pulsar assembly part. So before concluding this how-to module for serial numbers, I will cover the benefits of managing serial numbers for parts and filling serial numbers of subcomponents into the templates of assembly parts. One benefit is in tracking down parts. Notice that, starting with a kit, the serial number for a pulsar module links back to the pulsar assembly, and the serial number for the motor inside the pulsar part links back to a motor assembly. It follows that from this chain of links, you can now determine that the motor has a location that is labeled as being inside a pulsar of serial number PLS-031, and the pulsar has a note of being inside kit number 1. This means that you can now double-click on any part serial number and you will always be able to track down where that part serial number is located. Another benefit is the automatic accumulation of hours to the subcomponents of an assembly part. So let's say that a pulsar module is built up from a variety of subcomponents. When the operator adds, say, 54 hours of use to the pulsar module, then each of the pulsar module subcomponents will automatically get the same 54 hours added to their log of service hours. This means that the operator no longer needs to remember to add service hours to any subcomponents when adding those hours to a given assembly part. One important benefit of the jobs and tool tracking system is that you can rebuild an assembly part, for example a kit. Say you have an EM kit which is listed under the EM group of kits. You can move that EM kit to the MudPulse group, and when you double click on that serial number, the application will tell you exactly which parts need to be taken out because they do not conform to what's required for a MudPulse kit, and which parts need to be added in to make it into a MudPulse kit. The next example will show you how this works. So in this example, let's consider the case where you have the EM kit, and underneath you have these two serial numbers. Let's consider serial number 90 for the kit EM and by expanding it, we will find what was filled in, the tools that were filled in for that particular EM kit, and you can see the serial numbers are right here. Now let's say you wish to change this kit composition to become a mud pulse kit, and what you do, you would just right click and say move, and you take it to the mud pulse kit group, and from there you right click and you say move to selected row, you confirm, click OK. Now when you go to the mud pulse group of kits, you now find that the serial number 90 is right there. If I double click on the serial number, you'll find that there's a warning here indicating that some of the parts that are in this particular kit do not actually belong to the mud pulse kit. So I'm going to click OK, and you can see they're being crossed out here. So this is a nice feature where you can actually rebuild your kit by just moving it to a different group of the kit, and the software will inform you, which things are not required for that particular new kit that you wish to build, and which serial numbers need to be filled in. That is, which tools need to be added to make this particular EM kit become a mud pulse kit. So that's another benefit of the of managing the serial numbers and the templates for parts, and in this case kits.
Finally, after working with your serial numbers and building them into part descriptions, you'll be able to come up with a cataloging feature. And what this does is that it will allow you to group an inventory list of all your parts, kits, and tools. For example, you'll have a listing for batteries, for pulsar modules, for your gamma modules, for your kits, and even for the subcomponents that are available as pairs to build up into other tools. The example that follows will show you how this can be achieved.
So once you have finished adding serial numbers under parts and have filled serial numbers under part assembly templates, the application will allow you to view a catalog for all the serial numbers for the parts that you have in inventory. To do this, select the View menu, then select the Inventory Serial Numbers menu item, and on the window that opens up, you'll see a listing of all the part descriptions that you have in inventory. To view serial numbers for all these parts, click on the Select All button. This means that we'll be able to see serial numbers for the battery, the directional module, the gamma module, all your kits, your PC laptop, pulsar modules, and everything else. From here, to invoke the serial numbers catalog, click on the Get Essence button. The serial numbers catalog that opens up will give a listing of all the part groups. Next to a specific part group is a grouping of serial numbers that belong to that part group. On the right are descriptions for each of the serial numbers. In this case, for the battery, we have a grouping of Pro batteries, regular batteries. For the cables, we have serial numbers grouped as such. We have serial numbers for the directional module. And as we scroll further down for the gamma module, we find that serial numbers are annotated differently. You have a grayed out serial number, meaning that this particular gamma module has been decommissioned because it was lost in whole. You have further serial numbers that indicate rental and maintenance status and sold status. When you go down to the kit serial numbers, you find that because the kit is an assembly part, under the assembly column, you have red or green highlights. The green highlight means that a particular kit serial number has been filled in with its parts. If I double click on kit 1, you'll find that the battery and the pulsar module have serial numbers filled in. If I choose another kit, like kit 4, which has a red highlight, you'll find that the serial numbers are yet to be filled in. Another feature of the serial numbers catalog is that for those parts that have been deactivated, all their subcomponents will indicate deactivation status. So for example, in this case you have the pulsar module PLS-031, which is grayed out because it was expended in service life. The components of this particular pulsar module include the motor of serial number M-13, which is also deactivated, as well as the electronics module. If I double click on the pulsar module,
it will expand to show those exact serial numbers. For example, M-13, which is for the motor, we can see it up here, and EL-35, which is for the electronics, which you can see down here. Another feature is that with double-clicking a part serial number, you'll be able to trace where it is located. Like this one shows that it is inside kit number 1. If I double-click the motor, it will tell me that this particular motor is inside of the pulsar assembly of serial number PLS-031, which is this exact pulsar module right here. Same thing with the electronics module. If I click down here and I double click on it, it will tell me that this one is inside the same pulsar, and that pulsar module is right above, and the electronics serial number is right here. So this finally marks the end of the serial numbers module, and I would like to thank you for your attention.